is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Deakin.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. I must admit I'm a little bit perplexed with today's motion moved by the member for Throsby. And to use cricket parlance, when I first read the motion it looked like a full toss-on leg stump, because the sheer audacity of this motion is, in effect, the member for Throsby demanding to know why the coalition is unable to meet the former government's last-minute pork barrelling through round 5 of the RDAF, in addition to our own election commitments. Let me be clear to the member for Throsby. The funds for round 5 RDAF projects were doled out by a desperate and profligate government which knew it would never have to fund the projects themselves. And what is also perplexing with this motion is oppositions normally try to hold a government to account by demanding that they keep their own election commitments. But here we have the member for Throsby questioning why we aren't meeting the Labor Party's irresponsible election promises on the eve of the last election. In my own electorate of Deakin, all of the RDAF projects were announced on the eve of the election, and they were categorically election commitments. One heartbreaking example for me as a local member is the local Croydon Men's Shed, whose members were cruelly misled by Labor. And instead of doing the honourable thing and making clear that these funds were election promises contingent on the Labor Party's re-election, the former Labor member dishonestly presented these funds as signed, sealed and delivered, to use the term provided to me by the Croydon Men's Shed. But the truth is that not a single funding contract was signed prior to the election. Moreover, in the case of the Croydon Men's Shed, the group didn't even know that the funding was coming before it was announced. They hadn't specifically sought it. During the desperate and rushed process on the eve of the last election, the Croydon Men's Shed received a telephone call out of the blue asking for a picture opportunity and a press release. Labor undertook no due diligence on the project. Now, the project is worthy. After the event we know it's worthy, but no due diligence was undertaken by the Labor Party, and that's a hallmark of how they've treated taxpayers' money for the 6 years that they were in government. We know that the Labor Party is good at putting out press releases and generating great photo opportunities, just like they did with the Croydon Men's Shed, but they just don't have any ability to manage a budget or to spend taxpayers' dollars in a prudent way. I suggest that if the Labor Party wants us to take their RDAF election promise seriously, they should start by doing so themselves. But we know that they couldn't contractually commit to these projects because there was no money allocated to the projects. So of course they couldn't enter into the contracts. These round 5 projects were yet more expenditure commitments tied to the income supposedly being raised by the mining tax. Yet Labor was unable to deliver on these projects because it depended on mining tax revenue that just wasn't there. And we all know that the expenditure commitments tied to the mining tax far exceed any projected income. In contrast, the coalition government takes its commitment to regional Australia seriously, and that's why we're taking real action and introducing the National Stronger Regions Fund. $200 million per year has been allocated to this fund over the next 5 years. And not only is this fund within our fiscal means, but the government is committed to working with local communities to ensure that this funding is delivered to the areas that need it most. Not phone calls out of the blue requesting photo opportunities, member for Throsby, but actually undertaking proper due diligence with taxpayers' money. Furthermore, for worthy RDAF Round 5 projects like the Croydon Men's Shed, they may be resubmitted under the NSRF scheme, with the scheme's guidelines to be released shortly. On September 7, the Australian people elected a government that says what it means and means what it says. They also elected a government that knows how to manage its finances. I am therefore proud to be part of a government which continues to make prudent decisions in order to meet our financial obligations. and the Australian people and a government that has made substantial commitment to regional Australia, and we look forward to honouring these commitments.
Members